Popular program heard nationwide. You can hear it on KSFO, of course, every day between 3 and 6. He's the man we refer to as the Great One. He's a constitutional attorney, best-selling author, and he is Mark Levin, and he joins us right now. Mark, welcome to the Left Coast, as always.
Brian, how are you, brother?
Good morning, Mark. It's Melanie.
Oh, there she is. Melanie, how are you?
I'm doing very well.
We want to talk about this ruling from the Supreme Court yesterday. And, Mark, listen, I have a Bachelor of Science degree. It's kind of like an engineering degree in that I like everything to line up. I want the dots to connect. And I'm looking at this ruling from the Supreme Court yesterday, and I'm asking you, the attorney, could you please translate what Justice John Roberts was saying? Because first he says the mandate in the law requiring individuals to buy health insurance is not a tax, and then he says it's a tax.
Okay.
What?
This is what happens when justices go awry. This case is an abomination, and you hear efforts, even by some of our friends on Fox News, to try and spin this as some kind of a conservative victory. This is what happens when the left makes gains, and we conservatives and many Republicans behave this way and help them institutionalize them. We had 4 votes, including Justice Kennedy, to throw the entire law out based on the Commerce Clause. That is, that the Congress cannot order people to buy things in the private sector. It never has. It's never been contemplated, and the Constitution doesn't provide for it. Roberts decided that's all he had to do is join the 4, and Kennedy. And Roberts decided he wasn't going to do it, and apparently he did it at kind of the last minute. And so he says, all right, I got to find something where I can find some kind of fig leaf to make an argument, not on the Commerce Clause because that goes too far, to uphold this statute, because he was under enormous pressure by the left. They were writing all these articles, and he wants a legacy. And this is the problem, by the way, with putting judges on the Supreme Court who've been inside the Beltway their entire life.
Exactly.
Because this affects them in ways that it doesn't necessarily affect others. So the bottom line is, he says, let me look at the tax provision. Now, under our federal Constitution, under the tax section, which nobody looks at except me because we've litigated this, there's really only a couple of ways the federal government can tax you. They can tax what's called a direct or capitation tax, which has to be apportioned among the states. Do you know what that is?
No.
Nobody knows what that is because it's never been done. The bottom line is that tax has to be representative of the percentage of the population of each state. So California would bear the biggest percentage of the tax among the states and so forth. Well, that has nothing to do with Obamacare. Let's put that one aside. You can have an excise tax. Now, an excise tax is a tax on some kind of activity, right? Well, there's no activity here. You're taxing people who aren't doing something, so that doesn't work. Then you have the 16th Amendment and the federal income tax. By the way, I'm taking time on this because no one else will. The federal income tax. Roberts himself in the decision says, well, this isn't an income tax because there's no income. We're taxing people who are simply uninsured and can afford it but choose not to. So then what tax is it? And you know what his answer to that is? Let's not worry about labels. Let's not worry about labels. It functions like a tax. Well, now, wait a minute. As you all know, you've probably played the audio. I'm sick of it. I'm not playing it. The president's saying it's not a tax. Everybody's saying it's not a tax. The legislation says it's not a tax. It's a penalty. It's not a tax under the Constitution. Roberts can't determine what kind of tax it is, so he says let's not worry about labels. So he rewrites the statute. He rewrites the Constitution. He puts in place, he is the vote that upholds Obamacare, and now I'm hearing from George Will and Charles Krauthammer, this is great because now it makes it political. I'm going, wait a minute. We now have a constitutional precedent that empowers the federal government to tax everything that doesn't move and everything that's not done, and it's no different really than regulating, taxing. They're one and the same thing in many ways. There's no constitutional basis for it. There's no legislative basis for it. And we have people saying there's a silver lining because now everyone's going to get upset and vote for Romney. From a constitutional perspective, it is a disaster. And when you add it to the Arizona immigration decision, a 5-3 decision where yet again Roberts was involved in empowering the federal government, complete preemption on immigration where there's not complete preemption, where a state is actually in essence, parroting federal law because we have a rogue president who won't enforce it, have their legs cut out from under them. let me tell you, we have a runaway court right now, thanks to Roberts. This is much like the Warren Court, I'm afraid.
Mark Levin with us on
help
KSFO. Yes, it helps us immensely. But I heard you say something on your program yesterday talking about the roots of this legislation and how deep these roots will go, and to cut back these roots, to eradicate these roots from our system now is going to be very, very difficult.
Well, that's right, because we won't even know where the roots are. What's going to happen now is this administration is going to sprint in 1,000 different directions at the same time to try and institutionalize every aspect of a 2,700-page law. Now, do you understand? A 2,700-page law means there's going to be 100,000 pages of regulations, and that's just a start. And they're going to be spitting them out as fast as they can, institutionalizing it as fast as they can, because of the possibility that Obama may not win. Now, when we talk about, well, we'll elect the Republicans and they will repeal it. Well, repeal what? Well, we're going to repeal the law, but you're going to have all these regulations. You're going to have to figure out how to pull them back. You're going to have the left bringing all these lawsuits now claiming that there's some kind of vested interest for this person or that. It becomes extremely messy. Plus, I don't trust this Republican leadership because they keep talking about, well, we're going to repeal it, except for this provision, except for that provision, except for this provision. Can you think of any time the Republicans ever repealed anything?
No, but I don't trust the Republican leadership for another reason. Their stupid political judgment when it comes to a contempt of Congress vote yesterday against Eric Holder when the biggest court decision in the world was coming down. I mean, come on, guys.
Hold on. They did that purposely.
Well, then they are just even dumber than we thought.
Darrell Issa has been pushing for this contempt vote for a month.
Well, he could have waited a week.
Hold on now. Boehner kept holding him back. They purposely timed this so it would be story number 2 or 3 or 4.
Why?
Because they're gutless wonders. That's why. And I'm going to tell you something else. Eric Cantor came out, and as soon as the opinion was read, he said, the week after July 4th, when we get back after Independence Day, we are going to have an up or down vote on the House on repealing Obamacare. Yay! And what's going to happen? Nothing. Because then it goes to the Senate.
Right.
See, they're playing us like rubes, like fools. The way you would do this is to attach it to some bill the Democrats really, really, really desperately want, like raising the debt ceiling or something like that, but our guys blink all the time. They're endless.
Just what they do to us. It's exactly what they do to conservative principles at all times.
That's correct.
They'll attach, yes.
I mean, they're blinking like they have Tourette's up there. And the problem is they have no intention of standing firm on this stuff.
Yeah.
Mark, if this has come down to a tax issue, according to Judge Roberts, does that mean when it finally comes to a vote, for example, in the House or the Senate, it could pass by a simple majority?
Yes.
We're screwed.
It also means it could be repealed by a simple majority.
Right.
But how does that? Yeah, but still, I don't even understand how this works. Since half the people in the country don't pay federal income taxes, and the IRS is going to be unleashed with almost $1 billion in new enforcement powers and thousands of more auditors and investigators. What happens to the people who don't file a federal income tax form? Because now you're going to have to check off on there that you've purchased health care. Well, what about them?
They're the very ones that supposedly are going to be helped by this.
Yes, and then one other point. You keep hearing Obama say 30 million more people are now going to have coverage. As even Roberts points out in the majority opinion, and the dissenters point out in their opinion, it's the 30 million, it's not about coverage. It's about stealing their money to help pay for everybody else. Most of those 30 million are healthy young people who are not using the health care system. They're being forced into the system not because Obama's giving them, quote-unquote, anything, but because he's taking from them. That's why.
Mark, even yesterday, Romney came out talking about we need to make sure that people can be insured with pre-existing conditions. We need to make sure that people are allowed to stay on their insurance policies if they're young adults. And I heard you address that on your program yesterday, saying that's bunk. Let the market take care of these issues. Let the free market do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand this. Is this insurance? What is this? In other words, I love these conservatives who say, I'm a businessman. I believe in the market. Except, now, look, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this.
Right.
Well, that's not the market system. If we had a market system, we'd have 1,000 insurance companies offering 1,000 different types of insurance. tailored to the needs of individuals. I mean, you wouldn't have a 23-year-old buying insurance that covers mammograms if he's a male, for instance. You wouldn't have a 25-year-old woman buying insurance that covers prostate examinations, for example, because she doesn't need that. Instead, what happens is politicians, whether it's state legislatures or our federal government, they lard up these things with all this stuff, and people who don't need half of it are forced to pay for these premiums. We don't have interstate competition between insurance companies because the federal government prevents that. So we need to unleash the system. If we have competition when it comes to buying toasters or tires or pencils, we ought to have competition when it comes to buying health care. It'll drive the prices down. It will increase the variety of options that are available, and more people will be covered.
Mark Levin, all the best to you, my friend. It is KSFO.